Production funding for Behind the Headlines is made possible in part by the WKNO Production Fund, the WKNO Endowment Fund, and by viewers like you. Thank you.
The Grizzlies and their impact on Memphis tonight on Behind the Headlines. I'm Eric Barnes with the Daily Memphian. Thanks for joining us. I am joined tonight by Jason Wexler, President, Memphis Grizzlies. Thanks for being here.
Happy to be here. Thanks, Eric.
Along with Chris Harrington, writer, reporter, columnist for the Daily Memphian, covering the Grizzlies and a whole lot of other things for us. Thanks for being here, Chris.
Thanks for having me.
So let's start. We'll talk about, this is not going to be an X's and O's, what sort of defense y'all are going to run. Although if we get there, that's great, and people will love that.
Sure.
But I want to talk, how long have the Grizzlies been in Memphis now? What, 20-something?
This is our 19th season in Memphis.
Coming up on 20 years. And a chance to get you on because there's just a whole new look with the team. And I think even people who are casual fans, and I'm full disclosure, I'm a very passionate Grizzlies fan, but I don't go to a ton of games. And I think I'm somewhere in the middle of that sort of casual to passionate fan. That's my disclosure at the top. At the height of the grit and grind era, there's Zach and there's Tony Allen and there's Marc Gasol and there's Mike Conley, and the team is winning playoff games. And it was even almost more than that in the sense of capturing this kind of thing about Memphis, that literally grit and grind that Tony kind of wandered into and said, grit and grind, and it captured this feeling of the city of Memphis. Memphis, particularly at a time when it seemed like, downtown's being redeveloped, midtown's growing, there's sort of a kind of rebirth. Those guys are gone, right? And there's a whole new faces, a lot of young people, a lot of promising young people, but probably most likely a lot of losses, probably not a playoff appearance right away. How do you, in terms of running the business and running the team, are you trying to get back to that exact same feel that the team had and the presence it had? Or is it a new look Grizzlies and a new feel for the team in terms of how it resonates in the city?
What we want to do is we want to take the ethos of grit and grind, understanding that the style of play has changed, and bring that ethos forward, because we know how much it means to the city. We know, for exactly the reasons you stated, the peak grit and grind era where we were, this perennial tough team making the playoffs, making these deep runs, really did coincide with this sense of energy and rebirth around the city. And grit and grind became a shorthand for, hey, our success in Memphis is going to come because we get up every day, we work hard every day, the same way that team played hard every play, scrapped for every possession, nothing was going to come easy, we were going to fight for it. We want to take that same mentality and that same ethos of grit and grind, that we're going to fight every play, we're going to compete every play, we're going to work hard every single day, bring it to this next generation of players and continue that identity, but in a new way, as everybody is enthusiastic and understands of what we're trying to build going forward.
How much does it mean, and I don't mean to curse you and say you aren't going to win any games. That came across a little more negatively than I thought. Everybody wants to win every game, but how important in a kind of rebuilding mode like this, and when you're trying to get back to what you talked about, is winning and losing, and is there sort of a number in your mind that you think you can afford to lose before you drive off fans or you lose their attention? You know what I'm trying to get at?
I think the word you're going to hear from us a lot this year, and you've already heard from us, is compete. Competing is really what we want to develop. That's part of that grit and grind. Compete's another way of saying it, is bringing that intensity every night, bringing that professionalism every night, bringing that work ethic every single night. I think fans, from our conversations with them, they're extremely enthusiastic right now. They understand that we're building. They're excited to build with us and be a part of that process. That's part of the fun of being a fan, is being the first one in and early on the bandwagon and help build this momentum for the team and the organization. Same way in music and other things like that. So we feel like we've been trying to be clear with our fans that we're extremely enthusiastic. They're extremely enthusiastic, but it's a building process. So come join us, help us build this great thing we're going to build, and be there from day one.
You mentioned this is year 19 of the franchise in Memphis, and I think now that we've sort of gotten some years sort of under our belt as a city, as an NBA city, it seems like fans have seen what the cycle is like for a professional franchise. With college programs, sometimes you can have an expectation of a constant level of success, right?
Right.
And in NBA, you've seen the situation where the team was in the midst, really began a new build as the team entered Memphis with the Pau Gasol, Shane Battier Grizzlies, built up, had a period of success, dipped back down, built back up with the core four, the Tony, Mike, Mark, Zach. That is now sort of fallen as it was always going to. It's that sort of slipped away. And it seems like with Jaren Jackson, John Morant, this year you see the first turn back up. It may not be reflected in the record, but you can see that sort of process start to build again. Do you think fans now in Memphis, given this history, sort of sense that this is what the cycles are like for a professional franchise?
Yeah, I think there's definitely a greater awareness, having been through it now, like you've said a couple of times, and understanding the timelines of an NBA cycle. But I also think the NBA is covered differently now than it was 10 years ago. So, there's a greater awareness among fans. There's greater understanding. The concept of team building and organization building is part of what people who cover the NBA talk about on a regular basis. It's not just what happened in the game last night, and it's not just X's and O's, it's the entire structure. Because I think there's a greater awareness that having infrastructure behind your team helps your team be successful on the court. And so everybody kind of gets that it is a little bit cyclical, and these other facets are important. And so the media discusses it, social media discusses it, and it's why some of the most attention is drawn to which players are going where, how a draft lottery works, things along those lines.
And you mentioned grit and grind as this sort of civic ethos that sort of exists beyond basketball to a degree. But that did sort of evolve organically, right? That's literally an accidental utterance of a player, right? And fans grabbed onto it, franchise grabbed onto it, and did a good job of capitalizing on that. I mean, doesn't the team, the franchise, sort of have to be ready to react to whatever comes next? And I think we haven't seen John Morant and Jaren Jackson play together yet, but we saw them run a little two-man game on social media this summer, right? And so you see a little bit of this new kind of personality emerging. And I think maybe it's hard to predict what form that's going to take, but there's a seed of something there, right?
Yeah, and you want to, I want to give our marketing folks credit, because it would have been very easy to come in and whiteboard a slogan or a campaign on top of grit and grind and hire outside marketing professionals when Tony Allen might be the best marketing professional in the city of Memphis. Right. And we did. There are ways of giving something like that a little bit of a tailwind and a push without being heavy-handed. And I think our folks did a great job of that over the years. And honestly, we're trying to continue that. It's too important to let go of it entirely. How it morphs over time with new players and new identities, to be determined. But we're also being very conscientious as an organization and a team that, we have a lot of young players, this coming in, Jaren, Ja, Brandon, Grayson, a lot of folks. And, they need room to develop as players. So they shouldn't feel the burden of carrying the marketing of the team, at this point in their careers. That happens naturally over time. It was several years into Mike and Mark and Zach and Tony's tenures in Memphis before they had the, big banner overlooking the FedEx Forum Plaza. So we're going to let these guys, develop over time, let it develop organically, see what happens, see what emerges. And, in the meantime, I think everybody in the city kind of understands, like, hey, this is this building phase. We want to be a part of it. Woo. And go from there.
How hard was last year? Gasol leaving, be part of the company with a coach, Chris Wallace, longtime general manager and executive with the team. Just a tremendous amount of time. Mike Conley, obviously, through the summer. I don't know there are many people who, there's certainly somebody on sports radio that will challenge every one of those decisions, because that's sports radio. But how hard was it internally to make those decisions and to just sort of tear the Band-Aid off the situation, is what it seemed like to me. That's my words, not yours.
It was really difficult emotionally. As my son put it, he doesn't have any memories. He's 18 years old before Mike and Mark were Grizzlies. He's a kid. He's grown up. You have a whole generation of people. Right. You go back and look at, the Mike Conley videos from draft night, the whole city grew up with him. The whole city grew up with Mark. We watched, Zach and Tony and raise their families and become part of the culture and part of the city. And so anytime you have that kind of separation, it's hard, it's emotional. There's a reason, Chris, you circled Mike Conley's return as one of the big nights, and Mark's return as one of the big nights, because there is that connection. So that's really hard. It was incredibly strange this year when we're starting to build out our marketing campaign, that you're looking at graphics and images and there's no Mike and there's no Mark. So I think it's going to take everybody a little while to kind of get used to that. It's like any other organization where you've had somebody who's been there for a long time, who's had a significant impact, and an era shifts.
Let me shift a little bit. We'll definitely get back to Grizzlies and so on, but I'm going to shift just slightly. Right now, there's a huge spotlight on the Memphis Tigers. You're what are they? A tenant of yours at the FedEx Forum.
Of the city and county.
Yeah, of the city and county. Okay. So does that, the expectations on them are off the charts. Final Four and Penny Hardaway and this incredible class coming in. Does that help or hurt you from not from a basketball point of view, but from just a marketing and this rebuilding period? Does it help that there's the big spotlight on them and maybe a little bit less on the Grizzlies, or do you feel like, no, we want to bring that spotlight back from them?
I think it's fantastic that they're successful. Our philosophy is the more people coming into FedEx Forum, spending money, enjoying themselves, having a great time for Tigers, Grizzlies, concerts, events is a huge win for the city and a huge win for the organization. Back in my real estate development days, it was if there were other projects going up, that's not competition in downtown. That's raising the bar for everybody in downtown because the market's there to support it, which is fundamentally the critical part. We believe the market is there to support a successful Tigers program, a successful Grizzlies program, and a successful slate of concerts at FedEx Forum.
Same question to you. Just your perspective on the way the spotlight on the Tigers affects, for good and bad, the Grizzlies.
Well, I think the city needs to be able to support both, and it has for 19 years now, right? And so, I think, as I said earlier, with the professional franchise, you're always going to have this cycle of up and down. It doesn't matter who you are. You can be the New York Knicks, the Los Angeles Lakers. Those teams have been bad for a long time. The Grizzlies at one point had the third longest playoff streak in the whole league, right? So the ups and downs are part of professional sports, and if you're going to maintain a professional franchise in your city, you have to deal with those ups and downs. Those ups and downs will be financial as well to a degree, but fans got to stick with it through that. And as sort of Jason points out, like the Grizzlies have, as operators of FedEx Forum, the Grizzlies do have a financial interest in the success of the Memphis Tigers. And so it is not, as much as people like to pit the two things against each other, like there's a reason why the Grizzlies want the Tigers to be successful.
Yeah. And I'm old enough to remember when, before the Grizzlies came and it was like, oh, they can never coexist. It seems like that debate has come down a whole lot, that they can't coexist, because they have. I'm just curious, it's interesting that, I don't know, since Calipari was here, that there was such a spotlight on the Tigers and such
well, they've had their own cycles, right? Yeah. And a lot of times in college sports, teams are just always bad or they're always good. Like if you're Duke, you're just always good. The Tigers have been a little bit more of an up and down based on sort of their coaching history, but by and large, that is a program that has advantages over a lot of its competition and sort of is generally successful all the time.
I'll stay with you.
Well, this brings up a point about the idea of the Tigers' success mattering to the Grizzlies financially brings up the notion that, while getting people in the building for Grizzlies games is probably the most important thing for you, as a business enterprise in a small market, like lots of things matter, right?
Sure.
And I'm interested to what degree regionalism is still something that is considered important that the team focuses on. I know John Morant wasn't drafted because he went to Murray State, but the around town caravan stuff was in Murray this summer, right? Obviously you see that as a market where you can sort of draw both eyeballs and maybe ticket sales. How much is regionalism still something that is important for the Grizzlies?
It's extremely important for us. It's a big reason why we push Grind City Media, because it's a digital media concept that allows us to reach folks, and why we cover college football and HBCUs and all sorts of things that are not just straight up NBA basketball or Grizzlies. When you look at our marketing radius, we're allowed to market according to NBA rules the entire state of Tennessee and 150 miles from FedEx Forum. Our broadcast footprint for Fox Sports Southeast, our broadcast partner, goes through 7 states. When we have a big Saturday night game, and speaking of the Tigers, one of the days as a basketball fan I'm most excited for this year is November 23rd. You have Tigers Ole Miss at FedEx Forum at noon and Grizzlies Lakers that night. You're going to have 37,000 people coming through FedEx Forum to watch basketball in one day. It's going to be fantastic. But when we have a big Saturday night game like that, that's an event game, and especially one of the signature teams for which it's more like a concert or event than it is a basketball game. You have people coming from hundreds of miles in to see that game because we are the regional NBA hub for Little Rock, Nashville, St. Louis, Jackson, everywhere in between, Birmingham. So we want to cultivate that audience and those fans, and one of the things I always get a kick out of is I know it's frustrating for Grizzlies fans to be in the building and see so many fans of other teams. But when you walk around the building, the kids who walked in a Steph Curry jersey are in line at our team store buying Grizzlies gear. And, probably the family is realizing that, hey, we could come to more of these games. And, next time we don't have to pay premium Warriors price tickets. We might be able to get, a little bit of, more affordable ticket to, a less prominent game and make this part of a regular habit. And then they start watching the Grizzlies on TV and they follow us on social. They come across Grind City Media and you start to build that up. And we have appearances in their town. We're doing a ton with youth basketball through the region. We have, I want to say, like over 5,000 youth basketball players outside of Shelby County in Grizzlies branded youth basketball
How does that
teams.
work? I mean, is that a funding thing, or do they license that name from you? I mean, how does that work on a
That is,
business
we
level?
have a director of youth sports programming, and we go around the region trying to sign up youth basketball leagues and say, here, if you affiliate with the Grizzlies program, we'll provide you uniforms, which work with our sponsor Nike in that regard. We'll provide some instructional components to you, and there's a game and a group ticket discount that we can provide to you, and you'll get, an NBA affiliated brand. And then, those kids, probably being kids, will start playing with the Grizzlies on 2K before they'll actually start watching a game.
Let's talk
and
about
go
2K.
from there.
So for
Sure.
people watching who don't know what 2K is.
So NBA 2K is the NBA video game, and it's extraordinarily popular. And honestly, a lot of folks start playing 2K before they actually start watching games on TV. The NBA has started an NBA 2K League. We have a team in that, a franchise, Grizz Gaming, who competes in the 2K League.
So I know what this is, and we've talked, my son,
Yeah.
and we've all got, I think, kids who have been into games. But for people who don't,
Yes.
the notion that there are esports leagues where people make money, are
Yes.
paid to be on teams and play video games, not just 2K. I mean, all kinds of games.
Yes.
It's huge in, say, like
And people watch.
in
And
South
people
Korea.
watch.
My son, I look at him over. It's funny. What are you watching? He goes, "Oh, I'm watching these people play like World of Warcraft, some competitive game. I can't remember what it is." And he'd sit there and just for 40 minutes and watch this live game happening. It for people who haven't seen it or don't understand it, it sounds like nonsense, but it is incredibly popular. What is it? South Korea is one of the biggest areas for esports. I mean, it's
And they, for the fantasy games and shoot 'em up games are the most popular ones. So NBA 2K is right now more of a niche. The sports games are more of a niche within that. But they've got a pretty dedicated audience that the league's working to grow and the teams are working to grow, and you're starting to look internationally a little bit with respect to that, and it supports everything the league's trying to do to become multifaceted. And for us, we're trying to be multi-platform because we've got gaming and we've got the Hustle and we've got Grind City Media and we've got FedEx Forum and we've got the Grizzlies. So when we work with sponsor partners, we're able to create opportunities across all those platforms.
the Hustle being your what I would call
team.
my G League minor league team that plays at DeSoto Civic Center. Is that where they
It's
play?
at South Haven,
South
at the
Haven,
Lander
sorry.
Center.
Lander Center, yeah. I'll go to Chris.
I think
8 minutes left. Sorry.
the diversification you talk about is interesting in these platforms. I would assume, and this may be an incorrect assumption, you can correct me, the biggest financial driver probably for the team is the national, international television deals, right? I think there's so much consternation about how things are moving in terms of streaming, in terms of bundles, in terms of what's the future like there for the NBA, for a team like the Grizzlies? Is that a concern, where that's headed in terms of viewership?
I think everybody in professional sports is a little bit curious and concerned because it's really hard to predict where things are going. The bundle is going to be around for a long time, right? We're not going to, even though there's been steady cord cutting over a period of years, the bundle is still hugely impactful and important. And then what you're seeing with cord cutting is more of those people are aggregating, and our partner Fox Sports Southeast is on a lot of the over-the-top platforms already, so that Grizzlies fans can still watch Grizzlies games.
Over the top being things like Hulu or just other services, so you're not using your whatever
Exactly.
cable company, you're using one of these paid
services, exactly. Yeah. But ultimately how that works from a national valuation perspective in a period of years down the road is definitely an area of focus and interest at the league. The league negotiates, obviously, the league-wide media deal. The teams are generally aware and abreast of what's going on, but as far as our partnership with Fox Sports Southeast, it's in a really strong position. We have a deal that extends out several years. So, but it's definitely something everybody in professional sports is monitoring, and it's a pretty regular industry topic of conversation. It's a little bit hard to predict where it's going to be.
You mentioned concerts. How many concerts do y'all do each year?
It
Give or take.
varies. Yeah. you have a lot of event shows in terms of like the Disney on Ices and those kinds of things, Harlem Globetrotters, and then you probably
broaden it out. How many non-basketball events are happening every year? I mean, is it 50?
No. It's more like 20 in the 20 range, probably about 12 to 15 concerts, events, give or take, maybe pushing towards 20.
Right.
We have a really strong slate this year. We have a number of shows coming up in October.
Carrie Underwood,
Hart, Elton John, who's all the way sold through, Bob Seger, Kevin Gates, I think, is this weekend. So we have a bunch of concerts. Celine Dion's, I think, in December, and Ariana Grande's in December. Basically what happened is we work with, Live Nation's the largest promoter of concerts, and so they're somebody you have to work with if you're in this business. We recently, about a little over a year ago, modified our relationship with Live Nation so that FedEx Forum is now booked out of the New Orleans office of Live Nation rather than the Nashville office. New Orleans had a history of just sort of being an underperforming concert town, kind of like Memphis has a history of being an underperforming concert town, and they've done a good job down there cultivating that, and we feel like they're doing a good job here, and I think you've seen an increased slate of shows over the last year at FedEx Forum.
For people who don't know, and I kind of have a sense of it, but how the economics work on a given concert. So a given performer, we don't have to name it, but a given performer is going to come to town. Who all is paying to make that happen? It's not just, ultimately it's the ticket sales, but there's a lot of money involved and players involved. So who all is putting money up to get somebody in and then speculate that they'll sell enough tickets to make their money
Typically
back?
It's the promoter, so it's Live Nation or it's AEG or Beaver Productions is a regional one that we work with who just booked Trans-Siberian Orchestra with us for December. So they are the ones who are essentially renting FedEx Forum for the night, and then they take the risk of selling the tickets. Now, we as an enterprise put a lot of our marketing resources behind it, which is why you see all those. We don't have an obligation to put those concert ads on during all of the Grizzlies games and Grind City Media broadcasts. We do that to help our promoter partners and try and build awareness for it, but they're the ones who are ultimately economically at risk for a show.
So the Grizzlies theoretically could make money off those shows.
We make very little. It's our share of parking, our share of food and beverage, and then it's operating an arena in a market our size is a money-losing enterprise. We'll say that.
So let's walk through that. We got 3 minutes left. Because the Grizzlies arrangement, going back to when the team moved here and FedEx Forum was built, it is somewhat, if not very unique nationally. Other markets, the city or whatever entity, the government entity owns the arena. You correct me where I'm wrong. Owns the entity and absorbs any kind of any losses or any profits. And arenas aren't particularly profitable, I think, in most cities. Is that correct?
There's a bunch of different models, so I'd hate to kind of apply a blanket construct.
Talk about the different models.
In the largest markets, the arenas are owned privately because they're going to be filled 250, 300 nights a year.
Madison Square Garden
So Madison Square Garden's owned by MSG.
Right. But mid-sized cities
sold.
like us.
Yeah, mid-sized cities, there's a bunch of different models whereby municipalities either own them, operate them, provide operating subsidies for them. So the city and county, when they negotiated the deal for FedEx Forum, honestly did a fantastic job because the arrangement is that what was Hoops LP now is Memphis Basketball LLC bears the operating balance sheet for FedEx Forum, and the city and concert market hasn't grown to a point where operating FedEx Forum is a profitable venture.
How much longer is that? Is that a 20-year term on that? Or
it goes till it's just part of the existing lease structure, which I want to say is 2029.
Oh, okay. So there's still a year. This then brings up the sometimes y'all get criticized that you are preventing the creation or launch of a mid-size arena, something in the 5,000 to 6,000 to 7,000 seat space because of the non-compete that was put in there at the beginning. And the non-compete, if I understand it correctly, and you'll correct me again if I'm wrong, is that there can't be any public money that goes to building an arena. If somebody wanted to spend tens of millions of dollars and build a private arena with 6,000, 7,000 seats, they could do that tomorrow, I assume. But no public money can go to that based on that original arrangement.
That's the non-participation clause,
non-participation,
actually, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
So talk about that dynamic in a way that for the casual person who just doesn't quite understand what's going on in that.
Right. And this is where, I don't really feel like it's a legal interpretation debate. It's really more of a business decision, and I think sometimes what gets lost with us operating FedEx Forum is that we don't own FedEx Forum. the city and county own FedEx Forum, the city and county own the Mud Island Amphitheater, the city and county own the Cannon Center. And, as a landlord and an owner who's, invested in a number of facilities around town and is also, friendly with the nonprofits that own things like the Botanic Garden and the Orpheum, I think it's a economic decision for the city and county at times to decide, is it worth investing in a venue that's going to compete with existing venues that they already operate or are responsible for.
45 seconds left. Your sense, because you also cover music and you have forever and the arts and all kinds of things, your sense on the need or demand for a mid-size arena in this city?
Well, I think what people I understand, people don't like that concerts happen in South Haven and tax money goes across the state line. Not many concerts happen there anyway because there's not the market for it. But that arena is in the metro area of Memphis. Memphis as a metro area has that mid-sized arena, and there's not much activity there because there's just not much of a market for it.
And we do an enormous number of shows in the 3,500 to 10,000. Next time you're in FedEx Forum for a concert and it's not an A+ name, if the curtains closed on the third floor, then you'll know the size of the concert is a mid-sized concert.
I think Memphis is a bigger issue with smaller venues than lack of a mid-sized venue.
All right, that's the last word. Thank you both for being here. Thanks, Jason.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us. Join us again next week. Good night.